Greetings and salutations one and all. Welcome to another Tuesday right here on kevinstew.com, the night shift. Isn't that a little bit backwards? Welcome to the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew on kevinstew.com. It's Tuesday night, it's Healthy Love Night. I want to say big ups to all those locked in right now from near and far. Those across the pond, One Harmony Radio, top of the morning to you. Those on WGLRO, home of the Donnie Walker Morning Show, taking you from the sheets to the streets. Big ups. Big ups to those who are locked in on the Foundation Radio Network with Clinton Lindsay. ClintonLindsay.com. And of course, PEMGTV.com. And right here at the home of the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew, kevinstew.com. Glad to have you. I couldn't do it without you. And you have my word, I wouldn't even try. Kicking it up with a little Nessa Preppy. It's called Right Now. I never did figure out what Bazodi is.
Inside a party, hey, say right now I want to wind up on somebody.
Nessa, what is it?
Right now, so have me Bazodi.
Bazodi. What is that?
I want to wind up on somebody. Hey, love it when I back up on it. Hey, love it when I wind up on it. Hey, love it when I fling up on it. Hey, love it when I bubble.
I want to say thank you to my segment sponsor, Pulse Media Group. When being in the moment is priceless.
Oh, I want to wind up on somebody. Right now, so have me Bazodi.
Pulse Media Group is there for your innovative streaming and recording solutions. They can do everything you see right here on kevinstew.com and so much more.
Love it when I wind up on it. Hey, love it when I fling up on it. Hey, love it when I bubble.
So give them a call, 754-999-6020, or visit them at pulsemg.com. They can host your website. They can help you to create your website. Nessa Prepe. Yeah, Pulse Media. You have a website. You want to create a website. Looking for somewhere to host your website. You want to do some streaming on your website like you see right here on kevinstew.com. Let's get him a call and say, hey, listen, I see what you're doing on Kevin Stew. On kevinstew.com, that is. And I like it. How can I get that? They can host your site. They can give you streaming solutions. Even an event that you're having. And you just want to stream it live. You have a camera. You have internet. they got what you need.
To wind up,
A secure platform for you to stream.
love it when I back up on it. Love it when I wind up on it. Love it when I fling up on it. Love it when I bubble, 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 bubble. Wind up on you.
Want to say greetings to those on Facebook.
Baby, you know I don't play. I don't play.
Segment simulcast on Facebook Live.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's a purpose.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Inviting you all to share. Invite someone, call a friend, tell a friend, even an enemy, tell them to. It's Healthy Love Night, and tonight we are going to be looking at flu and COVID numbers, and specifically the death numbers. Because, you know, if there are two things that are mentioned whenever the word Covid-19 comes up, it's one, the number of cases, and two, the number of deaths. Now, for a while, I've been wondering, okay, so we have this comparison between the flu and COVID-19, and there's a numbers comparison. So, because I haven't ever heard of thousands of people dying from the flu in 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, I'm puzzled. Because on one hand, you're hearing that COVID-19 is so dangerous, and then on the other hand, you're hearing that the numbers are just like the flu. So, me personally, I was just confused. Now, because of my feeble mind, it really doesn't take much to confuse me. And when I get confused, I go searching for answers. So, I went looking at a few places. It wasn't just Mercola.com tonight. So I went looking in a few places for answers. And there was a recurring theme. The word estimate kept on coming up. And how it comes up and where it comes up left me asking more questions than the answers that I had already gotten. So, here we go. More questions and more questions and more questions. Each year, the CDC estimates the burden of influenza in the United States. CDC uses modeling to estimate the number of influenza illnesses, medical visits, flu-associated hospitalizations, and flu-associated deaths that occur in the US in a given season. The methods used to calculate these estimates are described on CDC's webpage. And we're going to look into some of that in a moment. Now, remember I mentioned just a few minutes ago that word estimate? CDC uses the estimates of burden of influenza in the population and the impact of influenza vaccination to inform policy and communications related to influenza. Let me say it again, just the first part. CDC uses the estimates of the burden of influenza. No. For me, personally, for DJ Kevin Stew, not Dr. Kevin Stew, DJ Kevin Stew, when I hear the word estimate, I associate that with guess. So I guess it is around this or around that. About how far is the nearest fast food restaurant? Well, it's a round estimate. How hot is it? Well, it's a round estimate. When do you think that storm will hit? In about estimate. So, when the CDC is going to give a number relating to the burden of influenza in the population and say estimate, who or which group of individuals gets paid the big bucks to play the guessing game? And when this round of guessing game ends, who tells the results? Because if every year an estimate is going to be used, when do we get the actual numbers? Yeah, that. Because I don't really hear the talk about the actual numbers. But of course, now that raises another question if you get into the actual numbers, because every year the flu vaccine is pushed on the population. If every year the flu vaccine is pushed on the population and it's based on estimates of cases that will happen in a given period, and actual numbers don't look anything like the estimates, then there's no grounds to push the vaccination, the flu vaccine, is there? I wonder if anybody else reasoning out this thing like that, or I'm the only one. I really have to ask, and I want y'all to talk to me. I need y'all to talk with me. 773-789-STEW gets you in touch. 773-789-7839. You can call, you can text, you can WhatsApp wherever you are in the world. You can Skype me. Kevin.stew is my Skype handle. Of course, the stew pot is there. Jump into the stew pot. It's where we keep things bubbling. Just go to kevinstew.com. You don't need to do anything more. Just go to kevinstew.com and boom, you're in the stew pot. You can remain anonymous. It's a judgment-free zone. Go ahead. I want to hear your views. I want to hear what you have to say about what I am putting forward, about my ideas, my thoughts, my views. All of it is not going to be my views. Some of it is going to be actual information that I have pulled up. But I want to hear from you. In fact, I need to hear from you. So, the burden of influenza on the United States can vary widely from season to season and is affected by a number of factors, including the characteristics of the circulating viruses, the timing of the season, population immunity to circulating viruses, how well the vaccines are working. That has to be tossed in the mix, though, doesn't it? And how many people have gotten vaccinated. While the impact of influenza varies from season to season, it places a substantial burden on the health of people in the United States each year. Now, this is information coming from the CDC. Pay attention. CDC uses a mathematical model to estimate the numbers of influenza illnesses, medical visits, hospitalizations, and deaths in the United States. A model to give the deaths, as well as the impact of influenza vaccination on these numbers. The methods used to calculate the burden of influenza have been described and before. Well, I didn't really describe it. But more recently, the same model was adopted to estimate influenza-associated deaths in the United States. Now, this methodology has been used to retroactively calculate influenza burden, including deaths going back to 2010. Now, if you visit the CDC website, you can find this information. The question is asked, what methods are used to estimate the number of influenza-associated hospitalizations in the US? And the CDC says lab-confirmed influenza-associated hospitalization rates are obtained from the Influenza Hospitalization Surveillance Network, FluSurvNet, a collaboration between CDC, the Emerging Infections Program Network, and selected state and local health departments in 13 geographically distributed areas in the United States that conduct population-based surveillance. The network includes hospitals that serve roughly 9% of the US population. 9%. The reported number of hospitalizations are used to calculate hospitalization rates, and the rates are adjusted to correct for under-detection of influenza. This adjustment is done by using the percent of persons hospitalized with respiratory illnesses who were tested for influenza, and the average sensitivity of influenza tests used in the participating FluSurvNet hospitals. The data on influenza testing can lag up to 2 years after the end of the season. So, for more recent seasons, testing data from prior seasons is used. So there can be a lag of up to 2 years. So information from 2 years ago is going to be used to give some answers to some questions for today. How exactly that works, I'm not too sure. Novelty, good evening. How are you, my darling? I understand that you're listening, but get familiar with kevinstew.com because in a few minutes, Facebook Live is going bye-bye. So you may as well just jump over now and tell everybody that you already shared this with to jump over there too. As a matter of fact, give me your thoughts on the flu numbers as it relates to COVID numbers, because I believe you hear the same information that I hear, especially here in South Florida. You know, so what's your take on it? You know, how do you see what you initially heard about flu numbers and COVID-19 numbers as it relates to deaths related to them? Because right now I'm looking at how the CDC estimates influenza illness in the US, basically. And hey, Katie, what's going on, my girl? Married life, have you silent? I haven't seen much of you. Y'all making me lose my professionalism. How are you, Katie? Jump on over, kevinstew.com. So, the numbers of influenza illnesses were estimated from hospitalizations based on how many illnesses there are for every hospitalization which was measured previously. Some people with influenza will seek medical care while others will not. CDC estimates the number of people who sought medical care for influenza using data from the 2010 Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance Survey, which asked people whether they did or did not seek medical care for influenza-like illnesses in prior influenza seasons. I hope you are keeping up with this. In fact, let me look back at something here. Okay, cool. So it doesn't give me the information of when. Where's my reference information here? Because earlier I looked at this and I had some reference information, and now it kind of has slipped to me. Because, you know, the CDC pretty much keeps up on their information. So I just wanted to look back at when this was, because looking at using 2010 information, you know, in 2020, it's a struggle. But basically, this is just telling us how they go about doing their calculations. And this information was from 5 years ago. No, some of it is from 2018. So you're looking at information from 2010 being used up to 2018. That's kind of crazy. But it's what we're dealing with. So the methods to estimate the annual number of influenza-associated deaths have been described in detail elsewhere. And I tell you, you can go on CDC's site and look up this information. I have other information to bring to you. But I wanted to preface it all with the CDC's information. Because we all go to the CDC. The CDC is supposed to be looking out for our best interest, right? So they say. So the model uses a ratio of deaths to hospitalizations in order to estimate the total influenza-associated deaths from the estimated number of influenza-associated hospitalizations. No mention yet of actual numbers. We look at how many people in hospital deaths were observed in FluServeNet. The in-hospital deaths are adjusted for under-detection of influenza using methods similar to those described for hospitalizations, using data on frequency and sensitivity of influenza testing. And second, because not all deaths related to influenza occur in the hospital, we use death certificate data to estimate how likely deaths are to occur outside the hospital. We look at death certificates and have pneumonia or influenza causes, P&I, other respiratory and circulatory diseases, R and C, and other non-respiratory and non-circulatory causes of deaths, because deaths related to influenza may not have influenza listed as cause of death. We use information on the causes of death from FluServeNet to determine the mixture of P&I, R and C, and other coded deaths to include in our investigation of death certificate data. Finally, once we estimate the proportion of influenza-associated deaths that occur outside of the hospital, we can estimate the death to hospitalization ratio. Still, no mention of actual numbers yet. Data needed to estimate influenza-associated deaths may lag up to 2 years after the season ends, which is not yet available. When this is not yet available for the season being estimated, we adjust based on values observed in prior seasons. Example, the 2010-2011 season through the 2016-2017 season. And update the estimates when more current data become available. So now you have to ask the question, why? Why is it that this information is being used, this old information is being used? And why is it that we are being mandated to go and get these shots? Well, for some it is not mandatory, but for some it is. Why? Seasonal influenza may lead to death from other causes, such as pneumonia, congestive heart failure, or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Do I need to say that again? I don't, right? Cool. Stick that not too far in the back of your head. It has been recognized for many years that influenza is underreported on death certificates. there are several reasons for underreporting, including that patients aren't always tested for seasonal influenza virus infection, particularly older adults who are at greatest risk of seasonal influenza complications and death. Even if a patient is tested for influenza virus infection may not be identified because the influenza virus is only detectable for a limited number of days. A limited number of days after infection, and many people do not seek medical care in this interval. Additionally, some deaths, particularly among those 65 and older, are associated with secondary complications of influenza, including bacterial pneumonias. Right? So, it is the pneumonia that is listed as cause of death, not the influenza. So, they said, like I said earlier, they group those. They include pneumonia in influenza reported deaths. Now, for these and other reasons, modeling strategies are commonly used to estimate flu-associated deaths. Only counting deaths where influenza was recorded on death certificate would be a gross underestimation of influenza's true impact. Okay. So, for the flu, they don't only use those death certificates that are labeled as cause of death influenza. Because having the flu, you could die from other things like pneumonia and congestive heart failure. So, when those things are the things that are listed as cause of death, then they go back and check those and add flu as cause of death. How is that adjustment done? Because to me, the same thing is happening with COVID-19. So now the person that died of this congestive heart failure or the respiratory complications or the pneumonia that was tested for COVID-19, it is put on their death certificate that they died from COVID-19. Things that make you go, So, is it that is how it is actually reported or not? Because I'm still trying to get some clarification on that. And I know there are some people out there that work in the health field and would say, Kevin, you're not a DR, so you may need to stick with the DJ stuff and leave the DR things for the people in that area. Well, that is why I do research. That's why I find information. So I have some information from back in April of this year. And it looks at the whole thought of comparing COVID-19 deaths to flu deaths. And that is of scientificamerican.com. We're going to take a quick little break. We're going to say goodbye to Facebook Live. And we're going to come back and look at that bit of information and see what we can pull from that. We'll be right back.
Quality Media Group, innovative streaming and recording, has done it again. A new way to get your business in full view of your neighborhood consumer through AdShare TV. It's available in your neighborhood today. It's easy. Just call us. 754-999-6020. Become a host today and place a TV monitor in a strategic location so it's easy to see. Get a 1-minute video ad or longer that plays anywhere in our network. Can't be a host? No problem. For a few dollars, we'll run your 30-second video ad. A host can run announcement specials like buy one get one free, or discount ads. Let's turn your flyers into a 30-second video with music, or a voiceover, or let us create and run your video ad with a spokesperson. Take advantage of our early enrollment discount. Join us today. Your ad will be seen at least 30 times per day in your AdShare TV neighborhood. It's easy. Just call us. 754-999-6020. AdShare TV, part of Pulse Media Group.
I'm Khalib Thompson.
I am David Muir.
And we are the co-founders of a cultural nonprofit in Florida called Island Space.
For many reasons, now more than ever, we need the support of our communities.
As Caribbean Americans, we have the unique ability to claim everyone from the island as members of our Caribbean American family.
We are working to create a home for that family.
The Island Archives will become an internationally recognized museum of history.
Visitors can learn that although we are unique, we are truly stronger together.
Learn more at islandspacefl.org.
It takes an entire village to raise a child. Hello, I'm Paul Campbell, here to talk about Palace. Peace and Love Academic Scholarship. This nonprofit group supports students facing serious obstacles from entering or continuing their studies, not because the grades are failing, but due to the lack of financial support.
Over the past 8 years, Palace has awarded 600 scholarships valued at approximately 50.3 million Jamaican dollars, or 415,000 US dollars.
Together, we must build a better future for our children. Please visit www.palace1.org and make your donation to brighten the future of a deserving child. Palace, preserving young minds for posterity.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is working to help keep you and your community safe from the threat of novel or new coronavirus. Take the following everyday steps to help avoid the spread of all respiratory viruses. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue. Throw the tissue away and then wash your hands. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects or surfaces, such as remote controls and doorknobs. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. And stay home if you are sick. Call your healthcare provider if you develop fever, cough, or difficulty breathing. For more tips, visit cdc.gov.
Hey yo, this is Caramanti letting you know that right about now you are logged on to DJ Kevin Stew on the night shift. Don't move.
It's been a long time coming. Are you ever gonna change? Are you ever gonna to take advice for how I'm feeling? It's been a long time running, and I know you wanna stay. So I think that it is time we live like we used to. Right all around the city, singing with the dark down. Let's take it back to when we were younger. It's been a long time coming, so put on a happy face. Grab my hand so we can let all of our troubles out. There's no cares tonight. Take me for a ride. Even when it's dark, never win alone. Even when it's dark and you lose your mind. Whoa, whoa. Right in the moment when your head is confused. Oh, I will stay in the madness with you. Oh, now you're so crazy. Oh, I'm crazy too. Right in the moment when your head is confused. Oh, I will stay in the madness with you. Baby, don't you worry, 'cause you know I understand what it's like to be chewed up and spit out in the cold world. Baby, there's no hurry, as long as you take my hand. We can dance and I won't be the one to let you go. There's no care tonight. Take me
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for sharing. It's the sound of Royce. The track is called Madness. I want to say thank you to Althea for sponsoring this segment of the show. Althea and her healing heavenly hands. Althea is a licensed massage therapist that comes to you. She operates out of Broad County, North Miami-Dade and South Palm Beach counties. So if you're in any of those locations, give her a call. 954-655-9000. She brings her table. She has oils. She comes to you and she only asks, listen, pay me and get off my table. Two things. But, you know, there's a third, given, you know, local, what we're dealing with these days. Make sure you get your COVID results and have that intact, yeah? You can email her, thealater@att.net. So you are safe, she is safe, and everybody is safe. Thank you, Althea, for sponsoring this segment. So, welcome back. I did say you can call her, you can text her, you can email her. 954-655-9000. Email thealater@att.net. Easy to remember. You have no excuse. Alright, so in late February, for those of you just tuning in, welcome. For those of you who are listening on TuneIn Radio, The Night Shift to DJ Kevin Stew, and all the affiliate stations, welcome. All right. So, in late February, when the stock market was beginning to fall over coronavirus fears, White House resident Donald Trump held a briefing at the White House to reassure people that there was little chance of the virus causing significant disruption in the United States. Quote, "I want you to understand something that shocked me when I saw it," he said. "The flu in our country kills from 25,000 to 69,000 people a year. And that was shocking to me." End quote. Now, his point was to suggest that the coronavirus was no worse than the flu, whose toll of deaths most of us apparently barely even noticed. The death tolls from the flu, that is. In early April, as social distancing measures began to succeed in flattening the curve in some parts of the country, an influential forecasting model revised the number of American deaths from coronavirus that was projecting by summer downward to 60,400, and some people again began making comparisons to the flu, arguing that if this will ultimately be no worse than a bad flu season, we should open the country up for business once again. On April 22, the model's forecast rose to 67,641 deaths. But these arguments, like the residents' comments, are based on a flawed understanding of how flu deaths are counted, which may leave us with a distorted view of how coronavirus compares with it. Now we're getting down to something. When reports about the novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 began circulating earlier this year, and questions were being raised about how the illness it causes, which is COVID-19, compares to the flu, It occurred that in 4 years of emergency medicine and over 3.5 years as an attending physician, this doctor had never seen anyone die of the flu and could only remember one tragic pediatric case. Tell you his name. I had it and I lost it. I tell you, I need your help tonight. Dr. Jeremy Samuel Faust. That's his name. And I'll tell you a little bit more about him later on. So he says, Dr. Faust says, in 4 years of emergency medicine residency, over 3.5 years as an attending physician, one memorable case of someone dying from the flu, and it was a pediatric case. One. In all this time, one. Now, based on the CDC numbers, though, he says, I should have seen many, many more. In 2018, over 46,000 Americans died from opioid overdoses. Over 36,500 died in traffic accidents. Nearly 40,000 died from gun violence. He says, I see those deaths all the time. And then he asked a profound question. Was I alone in noticing the discrepancy? Okay, that right there. So he decided to call colleagues around the country who work in other emergency departments and intensive care units to ask a simple question. One simple question. How many patients could they remember dying from the flu? Most of the physicians I surveyed, he says, couldn't remember a single one over their careers. Some said they recall a few. All of them seemed to be having the same light bulb moment that he did. For too long, he says, we have blindly accepted a statistic that does not match our clinical experience. I'm going to pause for a moment and ask another question. If this was the number that was given about flu deaths, and it was believed by many, including those who are versed in the practice of medicine, maybe this is why it is called a practice, but including them, they can say that this information is flawed. Should we now believe the information that we are being given? And I'm not saying that to discredit the information that we're being given. I'm asking that question so that we can question the information that we've been given. Because if doctors can blindly accept information that they're looking back and saying, whoa, hold up, but this isn't quite accurate. There's something that's just not right about this information. And now more information is being put out. Which information do we really go with? What do we really believe? What should we believe? So he goes on to say there's some logic behind the CDC's methods. There are, of course, some flu deaths that are missed, because not everyone who contracts a flu gets a flu test. But there are little data to support the CDC's assumption that the number of people who die from the flu each year is on average 6 times greater than the number of flu deaths that are actually confirmed. In fact, in the fine print, the CDC's flu numbers also include pneumonia deaths. I mentioned that just now, right? So the CDC should immediately change how it reports flu deaths, and while in the past it was justifiable to err on the side of substantially overestimating flu deaths in order to encourage vaccination and good hygiene. In order to do what? Encourage vaccination. Yeah, good hygiene is in there too, but we're encouraged to have good hygiene from home. That's what families are there for. Parents instill that in their children, and that should be passed on. The vaccine part of it, though, that's a business. At this point, the CDC is reporting about flu deaths is dangerously misleading the public and even public officials about the comparison between the two viruses. Now things start either backfiring or shedding a light. If we incorrectly conclude that COVID-19 is just another flu, we may retreat from strategies that appear to be working in minimizing the spread of the virus. The question remains, can we accurately compare the toll of the flu and the toll of the coronavirus pandemic? And to do this, we have to compare counted deaths to counted deaths, not counted deaths to widely inflated statistical estimates. See where we're going with this? We'll come back to that word, the estimates. Now, if we compare the number of people who died in the United States from COVID-19 in the second full week of April to the number of people who died from influenza during the worst week of the past 7 flu seasons, as reported by the CDC, we find that the novel coronavirus killed between 9.5 and 44 times more people than the seasonal flu. In other words, the coronavirus is not anything like the flu. It is actually a whole lot worse. So, if this is actually true, then again, which information do we believe? The information about the flu that we've been fed all these years, or this bit of information from this revelation that they haven't been using actual counted flu deaths, even with adding pneumonia and other respiratory illnesses or respiratory complications to the flu as cause of death. It still doesn't add up to the numbers of coronavirus related deaths. But notice they're blaming the death on the coronavirus and not the other underlying conditions associated with it. So, call me skeptic. I'm fine with it. Again, I'm not here to satisfy your hunger. I'm here to stimulate your appetite. Look for more information. So from this perspective, the data on coronavirus and flu actually match. Rather than flying in the face of our lived reality in the coronavirus pandemic, hospitals in hotspots stretched to their limits, and in New York City in particular, so many dead that bodies are stacked in refrigerator trucks. They have never seen such conditions. Well, maybe back in the day when there were other pandemics. Well, this is said to be worse than that. Now, in that briefing in late February, Trump downplayed the likelihood that the virus would spread significantly in the United States, and that extreme measures like closing schools would need to be taken, saying that we have it so well under control, and returning again to the flu. Quote, 69,000 people die every year from 26 to 69, every year from the flu. Now think of that. It's incredible. And I wish I could do an impersonation of him. No, I don't. However, moving right along. So we now know that Trump was disastrously wrong about the threat that the coronavirus posed to the United States. But his take that the cited numbers of flu deaths were incredible, well, we can say he was pretty much spot on for that. So, again, we come back to the point, the part where we have to ask the question, which information was right information? And if we got faulty information before, because we can argue that that information was used to justify the push of the flu vaccine. So, if we got that information before and we can associate that information with the flu vaccine and the need to have the flu vaccine, this information that we're getting now relating to COVID-19 deaths, is it any different? Pom, pom, pom. We have to ask. Well, I am definitely asking. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely asking. 773-789-STEW gets you in touch. 773-789-7839. I really want to hear from you guys. Jump into the stew pot. Let me hear your comments. Put your comments in the stew pot. It's where we keep things bubbling. And right now the pot is just there. Oh, why are we not bubbling? But yeah. Now you have the leader of the free world, as it is so often described. But I'll address that part on another show. So, one of the most listened to countries in the world, not too sure why, but is here saying, flu numbers, COVID-19 numbers, they're not much different. So, worst case scenario is a bad flu. When all along the flu numbers had been overly inflated, not just inflated, but exaggeratedly so. What would be the reasoning behind that? And if that information is actually true, then who pays that price? That is the other question. Who gets the answer to that question? Understand this. The official death toll, the official toll of the 2019-2020 influenza season won't be known for months. This is information from March of this year, according to health.com. Not that anyone is really worrying about influenza results, influenza numbers right now. Worries over the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, have eclipsed many people's concerns about coming down with a case of the flu. Not that the flu needs to be taken lightly. Flu season in the US, which runs from October through May, claims tens of thousands of lives every year. So it is said. This season, CDC estimates that as of mid-March, between 29,000 and 59,000 have died due to influenza illnesses. Add to that the misery of hundreds of thousands of flu-related hospitalizations and millions of medical visits for flu symptoms this season. While the flu has long been considered a dangerous seasonal scourge, new data on the COVID-19 epidemic underscore a frightening fact. COVID-19 is actually more deadly. Huh. Who knew? So, we're going to take another quick little break. When we come back, we're going to look at this information as it is presented from health.com. And again, see, I'm going to various sources and seeing what they're saying. So now you have the CDC saying, hey, listen, and proudly saying it too. We estimate that our numbers are this, this, and this, and this, and this. But do they now say, hey, listen, it is not my fault that you don't pay attention to the wording of the information that we're putting out. We said we estimate. We didn't say it was actually. But with that estimate comes conditions and laws being put in place. Because now there's a condition that you should be vaccinated because the numbers of cases and deaths of the flu can be prevented if you take the flu shot. I know people that can tell they've lost loved ones after they have gotten the flu shot. So, was that taken into consideration? So the people that actually died from the flu and flu-related illnesses that got the flu shot and then died because now they're displaying symptoms of the flu because they were given the flu. Are those counted? Maybe that's another statistic. I don't know. I need a commercial. We'll be right back. We're going to take a quick little break. Call a friend, tell a friend. It's a night shift to DJ Kevin Stew. It's Healthy Love Night. We're looking at the flu numbers, flu and corona death numbers. Not corona beer, COVID-19. Don't mix them up. We'll be right back. Matthew 28:19 says, Go ye therefore and teach all nations. With this in mind, and encouragement received during a South Florida media conference, The Church Links was birthed. The Church Links is an interdenominational worship service portal for churches, providing the tools to spread the word through technology in a cost-effective way. The Church Links. www.dahchurchlinx.com. Your links to worship and praise.
Come on, smile. Oh, honey, he's still not smiling.
Maybe he's not a smiler.
Yeah, maybe he's just not a happy baby.
Maybe he's just being a boy.
Or maybe he's teething.
Maybe it's just a phase.
Maybe he has autism, and we can definitely do something to help.
Maybe is all you need to find out more about autism. No big, joyful smiles by 6 months is one early sign. Learn the others at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others, and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
When being in the moment is priceless, consider the ability to share that moment. If you can video it, you can broadcast it. And Pulse E-Media Group has the tools you need. Weddings, birthdays, funerals, graduations, church services, parties, seminars, you name it. Pulse E-Media Group can provide you with a secure medium controlled by you to broadcast your event. Contact us at www.pulseemediagroup.com for more information. Pulse E-Media Group, when being in the moment is priceless.
It's Christina representing for DJ Kevin. You see me, I say, I don't know the boss. You see me, I say, DJ Kevin Stew and the night shift radio show. Yo, it at the thing, turn up the thing loud. Wow, DJ Kevin Stew at the heart of a champion. Never underestimate, just choose him. The silver line behind the dark clouds. DJ Kevin Stew believe him, and that's no doubt. Salute the night shift radio show. Listen to the heart attack. Loud.
Today in school, I learned
To every nurse, every doctor, every soldier, every essential worker, we salute you. Shout out to the K-Plus heroes out there. Just know we appreciate you. Oh yeah, reaching out to the unsung heroes. Giving all you got so the peace is alive. On the front line, on the front line. So we take our hats them off. We salute you, each and every one of you, because you go to work for us. Please stay at home for you, so that we could see this through. So meanwhile we quarantine and chill. You hold in America, us chill, for us to be safe. So I say hooray. Giving all you got so the place is alive. On the front line, on the front line. So we thank you for you.
Want to welcome you back to the show. I need to find a new word to the broadcast. The show part of the broadcast comes with musical therapy.
Putting yourself in harm's way. So how could we ever repay all the K-Plus heroes out there?
I do want to say thanks to segment sponsor Reggae Global Entertainment though. Reggae Global will be your booking agents, your tour take care of your tour management, handle your copyrights, your publishing, your trademarks, your business registration, marketing and promotion, music production, and so much more. Give them a call, 954-998-8034, or visit them at reggaeglobalentertainment.com. Tell them, hey, listen, DJ Kevin Stew sent me. Thank you for stopping by, Novelty. This is the sound of James P. A track called K-Plus Heroes. So, the current flu season has been difficult, but it has not reached epidemic thresholds. infectious disease expert Amish A. Adalja, a medical doctor, senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security in Baltimore, told to health.com in February. In the next couple of weeks, when more data is available, it will become clear just how severe the season was, given that we had an initial dominance of influenza B and now dominance of influenza A H1N1. When a second strain begins to dominate the flu season, this can cause the season to last longer, he goes on to explain. When Health interviewed Dr. Adalja, there were only 13 confirmed cases of the new coronavirus in the United States. According to the CDC, in a matter of weeks, COVID-19 has reached pandemic status, sickening, staggering numbers of people around the globe and spreading to every state in the United States. As of March 26, more than 500,000 people around the world have contracted COVID-19 and nearly 24,000 have died, according to Johns Hopkins University's real-time tracker. In the US, nearly 80,000 cases have been confirmed and more than 1,100 people have died. Now, again, this is information from back in April. So, how do the flu and coronavirus compare? Just a few weeks before, the flu appeared to be the more menacing concern. The death rate from influenza generally just a fraction of 1%. How have things changed? During a March 11 hearing at the House of Oversight and Reform Committee on Coronavirus Preparedness, Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, put it plainly. He said, the seasonal flu that we deal with every year has a mortality rate of 0.1%, he told the congressional panel, whereas coronavirus is 10 times more lethal than the seasonal flu, per Stat News. Now, as if the current situation were not dire enough, Dr. Fauci, a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, cautioned on March 25th that coronavirus could become a cyclical event much like the flu. He said the U.S. needs to be more prepared for the inevitability of a second cycle beginning in the fall of 2020. We are now approaching the fall of 2020 because now we're in August. Again, this was 4 months ago, 5 months ago, 4 months ago, this information. So this year's flu season, according to health.com, is shaping up to be possibly less severe than the 2017-2018 season, when 61,000 deaths were linked to the virus. However, it could equal or surpass the 2018-2019 season's 34,200 flu-related deaths. Overall, and it's interesting how they word these things. Overall, the CDC estimates that 12,000 and 61,000 deaths annually since 2010 could be blamed on the flu. Globally, the World Health Organization estimates that the flu kills 290,000 to 650,000 people per year. Estimates. The annual death rate depends on how specific strain of flu is on the specific strain of flu that is dominant, how well the vaccine is working to protect against the flu strain, and how many people got vaccinated, according to Dr. Adalja. And this is sounding a lot like the information that came from the CDC now, isn't it? The flu can be harder to fight off for specific populations, such as infants, young children, the elderly, and people who are immunocompromised due to chronic illnesses such as HIV or cancer. So, this is why the children and elderly are targeted for the flu vaccine. But also, the children and the elderly are the ones who are most affected by the flu vaccine. So, is it damned if you do, damned if you don't? How does that work? The CDC recommends that everyone 6 months and older should get the flu vaccine every year. Last week, I don't know how many of you were with me last week when we were talking about the whole idea of children not getting vaccinated before age 2, when their immune system got a chance to develop. But we're already messing things up for them because we are removing the breastfeeding. We're replacing it with formula, which is by no means anywhere nearly as nutritious as breast milk. To date, I haven't seen a formula being created that is anywhere nearly as nutritious. It doesn't provide the nutrients. It doesn't provide the antibodies that the mother would have to use to fight off or to ward off viruses that she has been exposed to already. Giving that fetus now, we're now at baby stage, so giving that child, that infant, that edge. There's another question as it relates to the COVID numbers and death, which is really what I was going to talk about tonight, but decided to defer that to maybe another time if I'm going to address that at all. I had shared a video on my social media page, on my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page earlier today, with Bill Maher talking about why don't we address our health in the fight against COVID-19? Why isn't the focus on health versus on a vaccine? And that is a really good question. I might consider it a good question because it's a question that I've been asking for quite a while. Why is the focus on something else to fight against this when we all have the ability to fight against it by just living healthier lives? Anyway, so coming back to this. The spotlight has shifted from the new coronavirus, which is sickening people of all ages, especially older adults and people with underlying health issues. Unlike the seasonal flu, there's no vaccine to prevent COVID-19. At least, not yet. And that makes it all more important for all of us to take precautions to guard against the risk of acquiring and transmitting the new virus. So let me ask this, taking that information into consideration. The flu vaccine has been around for years. Why do we still have the flu? No, nobody would answer, right? That pause was intentional. What? Because the flu vaccine doesn't cure the flu. It doesn't stop it. So why do we have it? So health.com is pretty much just giving us the same information that the CDC is putting out. They're just, adding a little bit of here and a little bit there. So I went looking to what my good friend Dr. Richard Mercola had to say. And wrapping this all up in a nice little bow, in a nice little package with a bow. For decades, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, has warned about the deadliness of the flu. But their estimates of the annual flu deaths have been on the heavy side. In recent years, the promotion of annual influenza vaccines have also been strong, with officials suggesting it is the best way to stay safe during the flu season in the US. Much of the push for vaccines is based on the CDC's estimates of flu illnesses and deaths, which now, when they're being looked at closer, are questionable. So the CDC uses the estimates of the burden of influenza in the population and the impact of influenza vaccination to inform policy and communications related to influenza. Right? We read that at the beginning of the broadcast from the CDC's website. Their estimates are based on a mathematical model created from survey results using surveillance data, outbreak field investigations, and proportions of people seeking healthcare. According to the CDC's estimates, seasonal flu is a serious disease that causes millions of illnesses, hundreds and thousands of hospitalizations, and tens of thousands of deaths every year in the US. So here comes COVID-19. And spotlight. Boom. People are drawing comparisons now between the number of COVID deaths and the number of annual influenza deaths. Researchers are turning to actual death counts, which are now showing that the CDC's flu death estimates have been way too high. The CDC's estimate burden of influenza deaths from 2010 through 2019 ranged from a low of 12,000 to a high of 61,000 per year. During the 2019 to 2020 flu season, the CDC's preliminary burden of disease estimates put flu deaths at 24,000 to 62,000, with estimates between 29,000 and 59,000 had already died from influenza by mid-March. Yet, an article published in JAMA Internal Medicine by Drs. Jeremy Faust of Harvard Medical School and Carlos Del Rio of Emory University School of Medicine tell a different story. Remember, I brought you some information from Dr. Faust earlier. As of early May 2020, approximately 65,000 people in the US have died of coronavirus disease. Disease caused by the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 SARS-CoV-2. The number appears to be similar to the estimated number of seasonal influenza deaths reported annually by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. How? This apparent equivalence of deaths from COVID-19 and seasonal influenza does not match frontline clinical conditions, especially in some hot zones of the pandemic where ventilators have been in short supply and many hospitals have been stretched beyond their limits. Yet public officials continue to draw comparisons between seasonal influenza and SARS-CoV-2 as it relates to the mortality rates, often in an attempt to minimize the effect of the unfolding pandemic. Now, comparing COVID-19 deaths and flu deaths is not an accurate comparison, due to the fact that COVID-19 deaths are counted while flu deaths are estimated. According to the article, the CDC's estimates of flu deaths between 2013 and 2014 and 2018 and 2019 range from 23,000 to 61,000. However, the counted flu deaths during the same period were between 3,448 and 15,620 yearly. On average, the CDC estimates of deaths attributed to influenza were nearly 6 times greater than its reported counted numbers. This is what the researchers found. Now, there were, for instance, 15,455 COVID-19 deaths counted during the week ending April 21, 2020. and 14,478 such deaths a week before it. But during the peak influenza season week from 2013 to 2014 and 2019 to 2020 flu seasons, counted flu deaths ranged from 351 to 1,626. These statistics on counted deaths suggest that the number of COVID-19 deaths for the week ending April 21 was 9.5 fold to 44.1 fold greater than the peak of the counted influenza deaths during the past 7 influenza seasons in the United States, with a 20.5 fold mean increase. The researchers wrote, adding, quote, "From our analysis, we infer that either the CDC's annual estimates substantially overstate the actual number of deaths caused by influenza, or that the current number of COVID-19 deaths substantially understates the actual number of deaths caused by SARS-CoV-2, or both." Directly comparing data for 2 different diseases when mortality statistics are obtained by 2 different methods provide inaccurate information. Moreover, the reported failure of government officials and others in society to consider these statistical distinctions threatens public health. Government officials may rely on such comparisons, thus misinterpreting the CDC's data. End quote. The researchers use this data to suggest that comparisons between COVID-19 and flu deaths are misleading and undermining the officials' ability to determine the true public health threat of the pandemic. But another question is, has the threat of the flu season been overstated? So we have 2 bits of things to look at. And those 2 alone will make you ask a whole lot more questions. So one of the questions to consider is, how many people are really dying from the flu? Given the significant discrepancies between the CDC's estimated flu deaths and the actual count, and if there are as few as 3,400 to 15,000 flu deaths annually, have we been talked into flu vaccines all these years for no reason? And if that is the case, what's the agenda? While it is true that influenza is a highly infectious, airborne disease that can be deadly, controversy exists over the use of annual influenza vaccines, commonly known as flu shots. And this becomes even more controversial if we have been misled about the actual number of deaths. It's already known that more than 80% of the respiratory infections that occur during flu season are not actually caused by type A or type B influenza, but rather by influenza-like illness. A flu shot, therefore, will do nothing to prevent any such illness. Nonetheless, U.S. Surgeon General Jerome Adams has gone so far as to say that getting vaccinated against influenza is social responsibility, as it protects others around you, including family, friends, co-workers, and neighbors. Really? Does it? But this is actually true? Yes? No? Is it? On the contrary, research published in 2018 found that repeated annual flu vaccinations may do little to protect your community, as people who receive the seasonal flu shot and then contract influenza excrete infectious influenza viruses through their breath, meaning vaccinated individuals can actually spread the flu. Further, while influenza can be deadly in rare cases. What most health experts fail to say is that these deaths are typically the result of secondary infections. Does that sound familiar? Such as pneumonia and sepsis, not the flu virus itself. And the flu vaccine is notoriously ineffective among certain groups, including high-risk seniors. In fact, while turning 65 was associated with a significant increase in the rate of seasonal influenza vaccination, one study revealed no evidence indicated that vaccination reduced hospitalization or mortality among elderly individuals. So in short, your chances of getting influenza or after vaccination are still greater than 50-50 in any given year. According to CDC data, for example, the 2017 to 2018 seasonal influenza vaccine effectiveness against influenza A and influenza B virus infection associated with medically attended acute respiratory illnesses was just 36%. That's how effective it was. So, in an email, there was an email exchange with health leaders. Faust, one of the researchers of the featured study, said that while the CDC has stated flu deaths are actually underestimated, he doesn't believe this to be the case. Quote, "The CDC believes that flu counts are underestimated at several points in the healthcare system. But if that were true, we'd see increases in overall death counts in bad flu seasons. We simply do not observe that. The assumption it makes are simply not supported by reality. If they were, again, we would see more all-cause deaths in bad flu seasons. That does not occur. What's more, according to health leaders, Faust said it is possible that CDC is reporting larger number of influenza deaths in hopes of encouraging the public to use better hygiene and get flu shots. We've heard that before, even tonight, with different information. It's also possible that the CDC annually counted flu deaths and recorded them accurately. The death count may be, let me say that again. It is possible that if the CDC actually counted flu deaths and recorded them accurately, the death count may be even lower. This is especially true if the underlying cause of death is reported. And Faust wrote, if official documents are only allowed to count one cause of death, that means the yearly total of deaths in the United States need to add up to 2.5 million. In that regime, medical examiners would have to choose between causes of death. For those dying of flu after a 3-year battle with cancer. Okay. Has anybody battled the flu for 3 years? Same flu. But people have battled cancer for that time and have lost. So, who gets the nod? I'm actually going to leave this right here. I'm actually going to leave it as a cliffhanger and suggest that you guys go and look up the rest of the information, because you could find additional information to either support or argue against what I am saying, what I am presenting. But I brought you information from 4 different sources tonight. 4. How are you going to move forward with this bit of information, with what we've been talking about? we're looking at flu and COVID-19 numbers, specifically as it relates to the deaths. Have we been misguided all this time as it relates to the flu? And here comes now this new virus, which is being compared in number of deaths to the flu. So, is it that the flu is a whole lot worse than we think it is, or it is not as bad as it has been made out to be? And if it is not as bad as it has been made out to be, then we don't need the flu shot. Is COVID-19 as bad as it is said to be? Or is it just another case of the flu being over-reported? Who knows? If COVID-19 death numbers are accurate, and again, we have to ask the question, do people die of COVID-19 or do they die of the underlying conditions that they had when they contracted COVID-19? Like the person with cancer. Did they die of COVID-19 or did they die of the cancer that they had? The person with asthma, the person with sickle cell, the person with congestive heart conditions. What did they really die of? Is it the diabetes and high blood pressure, or is it COVID-19? Is it pneumonia or is it COVID-19? Is it the flu or is it COVID-19? These are the questions that we want to get answered. And really and truly, as I was doing some searching today, I didn't come up with any of those answers. But guess what? Here's the joy. The joy is we get to look up more information. Because next week we get to do this all over again. So that is the joy. Because the pursuit of information, the pursuit of knowledge should never stop. And if it does, therein lies a problem. So if you stop seeking knowledge, you may as well just pick out your casket because you stop growing. Anything that is not growing, well, that's dead.
Me as a 15 of them, they got a nose with the virus. And 30 of them. The angry beast got away in the streets. It's hiding in the bushes and lurking in the creeks. No ain't the time for the heart to be weak. Stand up like a warrior by your feet. Don't sleep.
This is the sound of the real storm. It's called Angry Beast.
If you touch me gate and if you try to come in, I will clot it like a tail around machine. Whoa, school shut down, restaurant shut down. Them cancel every gathering, DJ can't play sound around. Bar shut down, all the church shut down. Them can't collect no offering from the beast in town around. Them bust the chain and make the creature roam. The man they said that it can China own. Nobody not safe in that this danger zone. Protect your yard, protect your home. Paranoia and pandemonium they on ya. Everywhere turn off them lights and lock door tight. Not even dark, now walk a night. Oh my, the angry beast got away in the streets. It's hiding in the bushes and lurking in the creeks. No ain't no time for the heart to be weak. Stand up like a warrior by your feet. Can't sleep. Them tell I need about the self-quarantine. You better bite from the big Wolverine. If you touch me gate and if you try
want to say thanks to GMAT Music Solutions for sponsoring this segment of the show. GMAT Music Solutions will provide your sound, light, stage production services, musical equipment, PA systems, DJs, musicians, bands, singers, audio engineers. They bring your events to life. Give them a call. 754-307-GMAC. That's 754-307-4622. Check them out on their website, gmatmusicsolutions.com. And I tell you this, if you went on their website yesterday, if you go on their website today, you'll see something new. GMAC Radio. Yep. So on gmatmusicsolutions.com you can do your shopping. You can see their services. And you can listen to some tunes. And GMAC he does his show. Yep.
It's hiding in the bushes and lurking in the creeks. Now ain't no time for the heart to be weak. Stand up like a warrior by your feet. Can't sleep. Them tell I neighbor we send quarantine. You better buy from the big Wolverine. If they touch me gate and if it try to come in, I will plant it like a tail around machine.
We trying by my side. I am gonna be alright.
This is new music from SDS. Sensational dynamic sound. Catch it. That's the title of the track. Jah is by my side. Get used to this one. Suzanne Sultry, Dottie, Shauna Dazzle.
I won't be afraid, no, of the terror that crawleth by night, nor the arrow by day. Yeah. Don't want it to stop when Kevin Stew play. You know, say night shift, I do it, and you know me not leave it. Kevin, this one's for you. Big up yourself, Shauna Dazzle says so. With Shia by my side, I am gonna be alright. Yes, I will. I know I will. Yeah. With Shia by my side,
Thank you very much, Shauna.
I am gonna be alright. Yes, I will. Listen to me good, 'cause Jah is by my side. I won't be afraid, no, of the terror that crawleth by night, nor the arrow by day.
This is our musical therapy.
Jah is by my side. I won't be afraid, no, of the terror that crawleth by night, nor the arrow by day. Yeah. How can I fear when the people let me say my Jah is stronger in every way? Make the news people chat, me no response to that. I know that everything will be okay.
Look how many storms you've already been through.
Not one of them
Never conquered you.
Somebody
This is Kashif.
If there's ever a time,
It's called Love, Love.
it's now. Cause morality, decency, and honesty are out the window. Discrimination, lies, and deception seems to be the new norm in this time. And only one thing can save us from their confusion and crimes. Yeah, talk about love, love that human beings need enough of to end insanity, give back humanity. It's life, sweet love, love. Run, come to our rescue. They're turning wrong into right, truth into lies, called in strife. The wicked is emboldened, it's unfolding in front of our very eyes. They're embracing hatred while ignoring when it's starving. Baby cries, eyes. It's like a nightmare and they're driving on the fear much more than before. And only one thing that can push them out and close the door, yeah. Talk about love, love that human beings need enough of to end insanity, give back humanity. It's life, sweet love, love. Run, come to our rescue. They're turning wrong into right, truth into lies, called in strife. I always feel like there's a rope around my neck, even though the wicked hasn't pulled it yet.
Giving you a Kashif double play.
Every minute we must regret. With our every
This one is called Freedom.
and fret. After all these years, will you plan forget? Cause we're still alive, yeah. We still survive. Join with me, black people, non-stop chant till we put something here from freedom. Freedom. Freedom from their wickedness. Freedom from what make them so obsessed. Freedom from their false arrest. Freedom from their manufactured stress. Time you let us be. We want to be free from you and your atrocities. Come and we chant them down till we put something here drum. Shout it down. Freedom from the wicked starvation. Freedom from brutalization. Freedom from the plastic system. Freedom from the religion.
I never cease to praise him, even though my bills are way overdue. I never cease to praise him, even though I don't know what I'm gonna do.
This is the sound of Tamara Brown.
Even when I find my back against the
Can't call her Tamara B.
to turn.
Wife of the lead singer from Third World, AJ Brown. That's him giving supporting vocals.
Got me covered.
That's the title of the track, Jack Got Me Covered.
Even when I get lost, you are always there to show me the way. At times my way I don't know, so I get on my knees and I pray. And ask you for the guidance, 'cause on your solid rock is where I will stand. So I know you got me covered.
Kevin Stew. This is Dottie of SDS working out with Mr. Ed Robinson.
It's because of you I was able to give my heart again. You give me someone to love.
That's the title of the track.
Someone to touch. Someone to hold. Someone to know. You give someone to love. Someone to trust. Someone to hold. Oh, someone to know. Oh, baby. I thought I'd never love again. Baby. I thought my life was over and baby. I didn't want to face or even see another day. Suddenly from nowhere, baby, you appeared. You dried my tears. You cared for me. Baby, your love for me truly rescued me. It's because of you I was able to fall in love again. You give me someone to love. Someone to love. Someone to hold. Someone to hold. Someone to know. You give someone to love. Someone to trust. Someone to hold. Someone to hold. Someone to know. For in my life, I wouldn't let love inside, but I swallow my pride the day you arrive. Oh, now with you by my side, everything is alright. It's because of you I was able to give my heart again. Someone to love, someone to trust, someone to hold, someone to know. Someone to love, someone to trust.
7 minutes before we get on out of here. 7 minutes before we usher in Hump Day on our side of the world. Those over there in the UK, you guys are already well on the way in on Hump Day.
Someone to know. This love inside I can't come.
This is new music from Peter G and a young lady who was in the stew pot earlier, Novelty.
Love won't let us away.
That's the title of the track.
Not a minute longer. The moment is right now. And being so close to you even makes it stronger somehow. Here I am with open arms anticipating. Just the thought of being with you is so amazing. You're the breeze in the summer, the warmth in the winter. You blow my mind. You're like a dream come true. Just wanna be with you. I love you all the time. Love won't let us wait. Not a minute longer. The moment is right now. And being so close to you even makes it stronger somehow. You say you love her, I'm holding you so steady. I know you feel me trembling. Body language said you're ready.
makes it stronger.
Being close to you really does make a difference. I want to thank you, each and every one, for tuning in, for joining in, for sharing, for contributing in your own special little way. It's a real big deal.
Just wanna be with you, wanna love you all the time.
You know, I've had this track for a while and I haven't played it.
The moment is right now.
But this moment was just right to play it. And I have another one from one of the Greaves brothers. This is Teddy Greaves Jr. His rendition of Can You Stop the Rain. You have Teddy Greaves, you have Yishka, you have Gershie. All amazing voices.
Haven't seen the sun since you've been gone. Like my heart, I lost it when you left me. And it can't be found. How can I go on? Baby, I've been living on memories of you and me. All the love we made, all those tender nights and those endless days are all here inside. Baby, can you stop the rain from falling? Won't you chase my clouds away? I'll give anything to see the sun again. Only you can stop these tears.
And then invite you all to join me tomorrow.
Day, baby, can you
Chat with a domestic violence survivor, Penny Morgan. I really don't want to miss that one. You don't want to miss any of them.
Everywhere I go, I feel you.
But until then,
Following my footsteps like a shadow of my broken heart.
good morning, good afternoon, good day to you wherever you are in the world. From right here in South Florida,
Fear of passing,
I bid you a good night.
or it's just the way someone is talking. There you are. Am I all alone? Don't you ever wake up and reach for me where I used to be? Is there any chance? I just can't believe you're not lonely too. It's for me and you. Baby, can you stop the rain from falling? Won't you chase my clouds away? I'd give anything to see the sun again. Only you can stop these tears from falling. I can't face another day. Baby, can you stop? You stop the rain.
Greetings and salutations, one and all. You're invited to tune in to the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. It airs on Mondays with Community and Finance, Tuesdays with Healthy Love, and Wednesdays with Real Talk from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Come spend some time interacting in the stew pot where we keep things bubbling and wind down in musical therapy. The night shift with DJ Kevin Stew is on kevinstew.com, where you're encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment.